Most sales visits achieve nothing. The customer was warm, the conversation flowed, you had a coffee, you had a laugh, and you drift out vaguely saying you'll be in touch. If you're honest with yourself, you're not quite sure what was actually achieved. Are you any nearer hitting your objectives because of what you discussed? Can you say what you agreed? Do you know what comes next? I've been in field sales for over 30 years. I've managed teams across some of the biggest companies in the country. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to run your next customer meeting so you can answer yes to every single one of those questions. And it starts even before you get in the door. Most salespeople I know are busy, really busy. They're driving from call to call, fitting in admin between meetings, answering emails at the traffic lights. Somewhere in all of that, the preparation for the next visit gets squeezed down to about 30 seconds in the car park before they walk in. And that 30 seconds usually amounts to a quick glance at the last call report and a vague intention to move things forward or keep the relationship warm. But the thing is, that's not preparation. That's just not good enough. Because if you don't know exactly why you're walking through that door before you walk through it, the visit has nowhere to go. You might have a good chat, the customer might be warm and friendly and genuinely pleased to see you. But if nothing was anchored to a specific objective before you went in, the chances of achieving anything meaningful coming out of it are pretty slim. I was working with a company a while back, accompanying one of the area managers on a visit to an account that had previously done a lot of business with them, but had fallen away due to some service issues. Before we went in, I asked him what he wanted to get out of the meeting. He had a clear answer. He wanted to talk about the changes that had been made to improve the service, and he wanted to get a new display agreed. 2 solid objectives. Good. So we went in, sat down with 3 people from the customer's side, and I waited for him to take control of the room. He didn't. What followed was 2.5 hours of conversation that went round and round, covered the same ground repeatedly, and left everyone in the room tired and slightly dazed. A meeting that should have been 50 minutes at most. And that's what makes this story worth telling. He was better prepared than most. He had 2 clear objectives. They just never left his head. Most visits don't even have that. Many are a catch-up, a coffee and a chat, and nobody has time for that anymore. If you don't have a clear reason to visit an account, you have no business being there. But even when you do, most people throw that advantage away in the first 60 seconds of sitting down. The problem is that most salespeople walk into a meeting thinking entirely about what they want from it. What do I need to get out of this visit? What am I going to sell? What am I going to push? And that's understandable. You've got targets, you've got pressure, you've got a manager asking you what you're going to close this month. But your customer has his own pressures too. His own agenda, his own list of things he needs to get through today. And if you walk in and immediately start talking about what you want, you risk putting his back up before you've even got started. The fix is simple. You frame the meeting. Something like this. Hi Jeff, thanks for making time for me today. I've allowed around 45 minutes for our meeting and I'd like to discuss A, B and C. Are there any points that you'd like to go over? That's it. But look at what just happened. You've told him how long you're going to be there, which means your time is valuable too, not just his. You've laid out what you want to cover so there are no surprises. And crucially, you've asked him what he needs from the meeting, which means he feels heard before you've even started. You're not just another salesperson sitting in his office with your hand out. You're a professional who's prepared, who respects his time, and who's genuinely interested in making the meeting work for both of you. That one question, are there any points you'd like to go over, changes the entire dynamic of the room. And sometimes the answer is going to be the last thing you expected. Maybe he's got 3 things of his own he wants to go through. Maybe he's got a complaint you weren't expecting. Or maybe, and this is the one that catches people out most often, he tells you he's short of time. His driver's off sick. He's got a delivery to make. He can only give you 30 minutes instead of the 45 you planned for. Now, can you see the benefit of bringing that out right at the start of the meeting instead of finding out 25 minutes in? 25 minutes into that meeting, you've had a coffee and you've talked about the weekend, you've covered your first point and you're just getting into your second. And he looks at his watch and says, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to wrap this up, I've got to go. and suddenly you're trying to cram 3 points into 5 minutes. You're flustered, you're rushing, and you leave the meeting feeling like you've wasted the journey, because you have. But if you find out at the start, if framing the meeting gives him the space to tell you he's pushed for time today, you can reprioritize immediately. You know what's most important on your agenda, so you lead with that. You still get what you need from the visit, even with a shorter window, and you agree to pick up the remaining points next time. Nobody panics. Nobody rushes. The meeting is still productive because you were in control of it from the moment you sat down. That's the point of all of this. Not to be rigid or formal or turn every customer visit into a board meeting. It's to give yourself the best possible chance of a productive conversation every single time you walk through a door. You run the meeting. You don't let the meeting run you. And you hold that control all the way to the very last moment, which is exactly where most people let it slip. You've covered your points. You've listened to what Jeff needed and the conversation's gone well. And now, just as it's wrapping up, most salespeople do something that quietly undoes a lot of the good work they've just done. They wrap it up loosely.
Great to see you, Jeff. I'll be in touch.
A handshake, a smile, and they're out the door. The problem with that is that nothing is committed. Nothing's written down. Nobody's clear on who's doing what and by when. The meeting just drifted to a close, and that's exactly how it will feel to Jeff when he thinks back on it, if he thinks on it at all. Because without a clear close, the meeting is an unfinished one. And unfinished things leave people with an unsatisfied feeling they can't quite put their finger on. It marks you down without them even knowing why. Before you leave that room, you need to recap your actions out loud. What are you going to do and by when? What has Jeff agreed to and by when? Is there a follow-up meeting? And if so, when is it? Say all of this out loud before you stand up. This does two things. First, it proves you've been listening. You're not summarizing from notes you half remember. You're feeding back exactly what was discussed and agreed, which tells Jeff that everything he said mattered and was heard. Second, it gives him the chance to correct any misunderstanding before it becomes a problem. If you say, so I'm going to come back to you with a solution on X, Y, and Z, and he says,
Actually, I don't need Z now. I think I need C instead.
You know that right now, not 3 days later when you've already done the work. And there's one more step that matters, and it happens in the first 2 minutes after you get back to the car. The temptation, and it's a strong one because you're busy and you've got another call to get to, is to start the car and go. Don't. Because here's what happens if you leave your notes until your admin day on Friday. You'll remember most of the meeting. You'll remember the main points and the things you agreed, the broad strokes of the conversation. But what you won't remember, not properly, not accurately, is the nuance. The way Jeff paused when you mentioned the new pricing. The thing he said almost in passing about a competitor that's been sniffing around. The expression on his face when you brought up the display. That stuff lives in the first few minutes after you leave the room. Leave it until the end of the day and it's faded. Leave it until the end of the week and it's gone. So, before you go anywhere, write your notes up. While the meeting is still fresh, while you can still hear the conversation in your head, get it all down. And then you send an email, a short, clear summary, what you discussed, what you've committed to doing and by when, and what he's committed to doing and by when. That's it. Nothing complicated, nothing lengthy, just a clean written record of what happened in the room. Now think about what that email does when it lands in Jeff's inbox. He's back at his desk, probably already into the next thing, and there it is, a professional, clear summary of your meeting already waiting for him. You said you'd follow up, and you already have, in writing, before he's even had a chance to forget what you talked about. Virtually nobody does this, and I mean that, practically zero. But the salespeople who do it consistently are the ones their customers trust most, recommend most, and buy from most. Not because they're slicker or more charming or better at closing, but because they do what they say they're going to do and they prove it in writing every single time. That's what separates a professional from everyone else your customer sees that week. 5 things. They're not complicated, but virtually nobody does them all consistently. The ones who do are the ones your customers trust, recommend, and buy from. But the thing is, all of this assumes you're in the right room to begin with, because running a perfectly structured meeting with an account that was never going to give you more business is still a wasted journey. Knowing which visits are worth running is a different problem, and it's the bigger one. And that's what I've put together in the free PDF in the description. A diagnostic that helps you look at your territory and figure out where your time should actually be going.